Welcome back to the Fans of the Home Team podcast.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Miranda. This is a podcast that talks about the fun, the drama, and the effects that sports, teams, and athletes bring to the world, whether good or bad.
This is a podcast for the people who love sports in a deeper way than who won or who lost. It's for the people who love the feel-good stories behind the teams and the athletes and realize that sports are truly more than a game. Today is part 2 of our sitcom bracket. If you don't remember from last week's shocking finale, I brought Archer from the cartoon region and Seinfeld from the parents region to the final 4, while Miranda brought Bob's Burgers and Friends to the final 4. And she was very upset with me for bringing Seinfeld over Friends.
Like, I'm still trying to navigate my feelings and thoughts on that situation, but at least we're keeping it fresh and interesting because we literally have 4 different players in the field, which I also have just come to the conclusion by my final 2 is that I'm just basic as fuck. But that's totally fine because I embrace it. Anyway, this episode, we're focusing on nostalgia and modern regions, and then we'll get into Final 4 matchups before each of us determines a winner. And I do just want to preface this. Kelsey and we're just talking about this. We're definitely a lot more passionate about these 2 regions. So there might be some feuds happening in this episode, but it's okay. It's all for the entertainment, you know.
We will take care of our friendship therapy later. Donations appreciated. As we said, therapy is very expensive and we need our own plus friendship now after this recording. But let's start with the nostalgia region right now. Our 8 shows we picked were Full House, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Boy Meets World, 2.5 Men, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Malcolm in the Middle, That 70s Show, and Saved by the Bell. So the first matchup was Full House versus Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What did you decide?
So this one, I mean, most of these matchups were hard for me, but this one was hard because I love both of these shows and especially the nostalgia factor, but I had to go with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
As last episode, we're going to start off differently. I did go with Full House.
Oh no. It was really hard, and I put a star next to Full House because, again, I feel like both of these shows were prevalent in my childhood, but as I've gotten older, I just appreciate Fresh Prince of Bel-Air more. And I absolutely hate the fact that they made Fuller House on Netflix and that show looks absolutely garbage. So that's why I won Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as well. The writing on it, the acting. I also really love the fashion on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air too. I don't know. I just really love the show. And I feel like it was, I mean, Full House too, but they both, I guess, tackled tough subjects, but navigated it in a really good way.
I actually liked Fuller House.
I'm done. I'm leaving.
It was good. Did you watch it?
No, it looks horrible. I tried to watch the first episode and I was like, this is dumb.
I don't know. I'm just a sucker for stuff like that. I don't know what it is.
In most cases, I honestly don't even know if I can think of a situation where like they try to bring back a nostalgia thing or whatever and it's good. I'm like, it had its moments. Like, it was a great show. Just leave it alone. Like, nobody asked for Fuller House.
I do want to say that DJ should not have ended up with Steve in Fuller House. I'd say spoiler alert, but it's like 3 years old at this point. So sorry.
So sorry. I had a feeling that's what was going to happen when I saw them both on the show, though.
Yeah, he was really weird on Fuller House. I didn't vibe with it at all.
I will say, though, I loved all the kids on Full House. 2 of my favorite actresses are Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. Not current day, but like I literally grew up with them. A lot of my life was dedicated to Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. I watched all their movies. My sister and I would play their video game on the PlayStation 1. That game was so good. You would have to deliver the pizza and then you go snowboarding and then the fashion show and the photography. Oh my God. I loved that game. So I love Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. My favorite daughter, though, I think was Stephanie, which is surprising because she's the middle child. Not that I don't know.
That just hate for middle kids.
No, because I'm the oldest child, so you think I would relate the most with CJ, but I love Stephanie. Obviously, Bob Saget was amazing on that show. Jesse, all the uncles. And I wanted to name my kid Rebecca just so I could call her Becky. when I was younger. And then I quickly changed that as I actually became an adult.
Becky with the good hair.
Yeah. But it was a good show, obviously.
Yeah, this was hard. I love them both, but I guess I feel like I watched Full House more. I think I watched like pretty much every episode. So I just moved it on. It's just a gut feeling, you know?
Yeah, that's why this one was hard, but I had to go with Fresh Prince. I mean, that show's amazing. And I also was thinking about it, but like, did you ever watch Family Matters or Step by Step or Growing Pains?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh my God. I loved all of those shows too. They were it was on ABC Family, all of this.
Now that we didn't have any of those 3 shows on here, but
no, but shout out to them because we had like a pretty elite lineup growing up of sitcoms.
Kids these days are so deprived.
Yeah, and those shows were they were just so cute,
so wholesome.
And I remember again, which if you haven't listened to the previous episode, you learned about a couple of my first like crushes growing up. But on Growing Pains, Leonardo DiCaprio, oh my God,
what a goat! I forgot he was in that show.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember back, but I think he was like an orphan or he was homeless or something, and they took him in. It had to be like one of his first gigs.
The more you know. Fun facts. The next matchup we had was Boy Meets World and 2.5 Men. I really think we're about to fight. I picked 2.5 Men.
That's absolutely garbage. Like disgusting. I fucking hate that show. I literally cannot.
It's funny.
I think Derek is gonna disown you as a Taurus, bro. Because if he filled out this bracket, Boy Meets World would have won.
Would have won?
He loves Boy Meets World. I picked Boy Meets World because it's far superior than 2.5 Men.
I don't know what it is about Boy Meets World, but it was just like I really couldn't get into it like I did other shows. I don't know why. I just really couldn't. I don't know why I liked 2.5 Men so much. I really loved it growing up. It was so stupid, but I mean, I just like stupid humor.
Oh, I definitely watched it. It was one of those shows that more so like my dad watched, so like it would be on. But no, I don't like it. I also don't like Charlie Sheen though, so that could be a huge part of it as well.
I really like Charlie Sheen.
Oh my God.
Which is dumb. But Janelle said the show is stupid too. I'm pretty sure.
I only like Charlie Sheen in, what is he in? Major League? Is that the baseball movie he's in? Yeah, he really goes down to watch that. But I picked Boy Meets World because I love that show. I watched it quite a lot. There definitely is a point, I think, in the older seasons when Corey's older where he annoys the crap out of me. But the younger seasons, and I mean, they're all really good. It had a continuous storyline, but like each episode was different as well. I don't know. I think it was just relatable to like kids growing up and going through like elementary school, middle school, high school, college, like trying to navigate relationships and friendships. But I will also say that Sean was one of my first crushes as well. Clearly, I just had a thing for that hairstyle back in the day. Where it's like the middle part with like the longer hair on top. But if Derek was rocking that hairstyle, I'd be like, what are you doing? So clearly it has changed. But yeah, pick Boy Meets World. Pretty easy.
We need to give Derek a middle part.
No, we're good.
Doesn't hit the same anymore.
It doesn't. I think his hair is parted to the left. That's how it should say.
Not the right, just the left.
Yeah, just the left.
The next matchup was Sabrina the Teenage Witch versus Malcolm in the Middle.
So this was another hard one for me because I enjoyed Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but I went with Malcolm in the Middle because of the chaotic energy.
Me too. You got a match.
It's always like the bottom half of the bracket that like we get back on the same page. I remember watching these shows all the time, and I've even as an adult gone back and watched Malcolm in the Middle. That show is freaking wild. They're chaos, pure and utter chaos. I think it depicted ins and outs and the chaoticness of having like 3 sons. I can only imagine. I thought it was hysterical. I did love Sabrina the Teenage Witch, But when I was filling out this bracket, I remember like it also creeped me out as well. I don't know. There were definitely like some weird moments to it where I feel like I was having a fever dream while watching, mostly when they went into the closet and they would like go somewhere else. But yeah, had to go with Malcolm in the Middle.
I loved it. Yeah, I liked Sabrina as well, but the chaotic energy just speaks to me. And I just love Frankie Muniz so much too.
I was going to say Frankie Muniz really impacted our childhood because he was like in everything.
Did you know he like doesn't remember anything? I don't know if he got into an accident or if he's something medical, but like he doesn't remember from Malcolm in the Middle, really. Like he doesn't remember filming it.
Really?
Yeah, he was on Dancing with the Stars a few years ago, and so like they had a whole thing about it.
That's so interesting and so sad.
He was robbed on Dancing with the Stars also, but that's another topic.
I'm gonna give a shout out to the middle child because for some reason he was my favorite. Or no, who was the middle child? Wasn't Frankie Muniz the middle child?
Yeah, I think it's him.
Okay, no, shout out to the oldest child because my favorite was the oldest child on this episode. I don't know, or not the oldest, because the oldest was, I'm forgetting kids.
There's only 3 options. You've ran through 2.
No,
so
they had the oldest son. There was 4 sons.
Yeah,
I didn't like him at all. But the second oldest, I don't remember.
The oldest that was there.
Yes, the oldest that was there. He was my favorite for some reason. I have no idea why. I also love Dewey, the youngest too. I mean, I like Frankie Muniz as Malcolm. Yeah, this show was so good. The dad, the mom, like oh my God, the mom used to scare the crap out of me, honestly. Like,
I agree.
If I were her kids, I would be running for the hills. But yeah, this show was good. It's still, and I think it holds up pretty well still to this day, which is kind of hard to say about some of these shows.
Yeah, I don't think Sabrina does that for me.
Yeah, like it's so sad when you go back and watch some shows that like you loved so much growing up and you're like, this is bad.
Like I gotta leave this in the past.
Yeah, I remember I did that when like Disney Plus became a thing and we got a subscription and I went and watched, I think it was Lizzie McGuire. And like, I love that show, even though it was only on for 3 seasons. Like that was an integral part of my childhood. I like couldn't even get through the first like 2 episodes. Like I was like, this is so bad.
I liked that show too, but I didn't like Lizzie McGuire, the character. Sorry, Hillary.
Oh, I loved Hilary Duff.
Yeah, she's cool. I didn't mess with Lizzie. Thought she was weird.
Also, one of the characters' names was Miranda, so
that's true. Good point. Must have been a good show.
Exactly.
Last matchup in the nostalgia region was that 70s show versus Saved by the Bell. This was really easy for me. I went with Saved by the Bell. And Miranda didn't. I can tell by her reaction.
This was really easy for me. I went with that 70s show.
Stop. Okay, so Saved by the Bell, I watched every day. Like Monday through Sunday, it was on, I forget what channel, but it was on at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. I would sit at the kitchen table and just like eat cereal for 2 hours while watching the show every single day.
You're really losing like your hipster vibe.
I even have the Roosevelt shirt with AC Slater on it. Like, this is my cult following here.
This is my cult following, which means you're going to kick it out later on.
We'll see. We'll see.
I really wasn't a big like Saved by the Bell person. I don't know. What channel was that on?
I think it was on ABC. ABC Family too. It's like really early.
Oh, well, maybe I wasn't up early enough to watch it. I have no idea, but I really wasn't like I obviously remember it and like I've seen quite a few episodes, but it just wasn't as prevalent as like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Full House, like Boy Meets World, like these other shows. That 70s show, I love that show so much. I remember watching that show, like my dad would watch it and that's how we would watch it. It's just followed me throughout my lifetime, I feel like. And it's another show that I think still holds up really well. I love it. I love most of the characters on the show. I love the concept of like it being in the 70s, like a decade obviously we were not alive in. And I don't know. I loved every piece of it.
I liked it too. Kelsey was the best character, by the way, solely because of the name.
I was
That's
literally
it.
in love with Ashton Kutcher.
Oh my God. What's happening?
Surprise. This is actually an episode about all my childhood crushes.
That'd be quite the episode.
Oh my God. No, I loved Mila Kunis too. I loved Donna's character. I loved Red Foreman, Kitty. Like, I loved Hyde, Fett. Like, all of the characters, Eric, like, they all slapped in this show. And I just loved they really did. I feel like it was obviously similar navigations of like friendships and relationships, but it was more like adult, which I think was interesting, like growing up, obviously. And I just remember like not that I never understood, but it took me a little bit to like understand that like when they're in the circle, like just sitting there with the smoke around them, I'm like, what's going on? I always thought they were just smoking cigarettes. And then like, obviously as I got older, I was like, oh no, it's actually marijuana. So I don't know. I felt like it was like one of those shows that was like a little too adult for us when it first came out. So I just felt like cool watching it.
I'm honestly surprised my parents let me watch the show.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't. There were shows like my mom blocked Jersey Shore on the computer with the TV with the passcode, but all her passcodes are my dad's birthday, so I'd watch it anyway.
Oh my God. I was gonna say you would be deprived without Jersey Shore.
I wouldn't be the person I am today without Jersey Shore.
Derek and I, when we were in Nashville a few weeks ago, like one of the nights when we just went home, like I think it was after the actual stadium series, we just watched like hours of Jersey Shore, and I forgot how good that freaking show is. But yeah, my mom definitely tried to like, I guess, limit our programming or like she never did parental controls though. She just would be like, turn this off and then walk out of the room. So you just turn it back on. And like my dad, I feel like really did not care at all. It's like, whatever.
No, my mom only parental controlled Jersey Shore. I don't know why out of all the shows, but I mean, I guess I get it when you're a child.
How old were we when that show came out?
I don't know, like 14, 15. Kate would have been a little bit younger.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
it's whatever.
So funny. I love it.
It's so good.
We might have to do a reality TV bracket.
Ooh, that could get crazy. This region is shaping up to be completely different from each other. So you had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air versus Boy Meets World, and I had Full House versus 2.5 Men. So who did you bring to the Elite Eight?
I went with Boy Meets World just because I've watched that show so much more. Again, this was a hard matchup for me. Derek and I still watch it on Disney Plus to this day. So although I will say the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the reunion that was on HBO, it was so good. So interesting. I really, really love that one.
I need to watch that. I haven't watched it yet.
It was really good. And there was like some drama too. It was really interesting. There was a lot of like ins and outs I didn't know. And then obviously they talked about Uncle Phil, who's just like the GOAT character too. So I love that show, but I had to go with Boy Meets World. Like I said, we still watch it to this day. I remember when Derek and I were dating in high school. I think it was for Christmas or his birthday. Like I bought him, I think it was like seasons 1 through 3 or something of Boy Meets World, like on DVD.
Whoa.
That's how much he loves the show. I think a lot of these shows that we grew up with hold up to this day for the most part.
I don't know why I did this looking back, but I have 2.5 Men in my Elite Eight, which it shouldn't be there. And I
did that either.
I am so sorry to Bob Saget, RIP. I feel like he's rolling over in his grave right now, listening to me say this. I'm sure they have it on repeat there, but I don't know. This probably shouldn't have happened, but it's there, and it's probably just because I think it's funny. So,
because I think it's funny. Yeah, honestly, that's shocking because I feel like Full House is another like show that was so good. I don't know. I just feel like 2.5 Men almost was like a show our parents watched.
I don't know. I feel like I did this for a hot take.
So Bob Saget's really upset that you didn't pick Full House and you picked Charlie Sheen over him.
I'm really going against some people I really do like in this entire thing.
Who plays the other uncle.
Oh, John Stamos. Oh, yeah, I like him too.
No, in Two and a Half Men. Not the uncle, the dad, I guess.
Oh, I don't know. That dude's weird.
He is cringe in that show. That actor's no, I'm not a fan.
Well, I guess I like Charlie Sheen that much. But anyway, moving on from that, we both had Malcolm in the Middle. I had it against Saved by the Bell, and you had it against That 70s Show. I brought Saved by the Bell in front to the Elite Eight.
I also did not pick Malcolm in the Middle and brought That 70s Show to the Elite Eight. I loved Malcolm in the Middle, but also it gave me a little bit of like anxiety watching it because it was just like so much, like I guess overstimulation at times, whereas That 70s Show is a lot more chill, probably because they're high the whole show. So yeah, I had to go with That 70s Show.
So we have two very different Elite Eight matchups as well. This region did not go well for you and I.
I'm nervous for Modern. I'm nervous
too because I think we're gonna fight like straight up. So for this one, I had Two and a Half Men versus Saved by the Bell. This is where the Charlie Sheen run ends.
Finally, goodbye.
It probably should have ended in round one, but it made it here. But Saved by the Bell is my nostalgia winner.
I had Boy Meets World versus That 70s Show, which was really hard because, again, these are shows that I still watch. But I ended up going with Boy Meets World, more so from like the nostalgia standpoint. I just feel like it was a lot more ingrained in my childhood, whereas That 70s Show came a little bit later. But I love both of them. So sorry, Michael Kelso, aka Ashton Kutcher, but I had to go with Boy Meets World.
We're just ripping people apart.
I know.
In this series here.
I'm sure they're all going to be listening to it too and just be like, what the hell are these girls thinking?
Please tag all of them. So far, we have 3 completely different Final Fours.
That Modern is probably going to be different as well. So,
all right. Well, here we go. This is going to be a bloodbath. The Modern region, we've got New Girl, Schitt's Creek, How I Met Your Mother, The Middle, Modern Family, The League, The Office, and Parks and Rec. The first matchup is New Girl versus Schitt's Creek, and I just know that we're gonna have a problem. So go ahead.
Also, this is the most evil matchup in this bracket. Yeah, but New Girl, Schitt's Creek. This was hard, but also like easy at the same time, without giving away too much. Like New Girl, I live and breathe for that show. Like I can't get enough of it. I'm literally watching it again, probably, and this isn't even like being over dramatic, for like the 40th time. I constantly watch that show. It is my go-to comfort show, similar to Friends, but New Girl, Elite. I love Schitt's Creek. I love it so much. Like we were talking about in the last episode, it's hard to have like a really good sitcom nowadays, and I think that Schitt's Creek was phenomenal for it being in the past decade. Obviously, I literally have a sticker on this laptop that we are recording on that Derek's mom, my future mother-in-law, Angie, shout out to Angie, got me a sticker that says a little bit of Alexis, and I love it. And I get so many compliments on it at the store, like, because I obviously use my laptop. But I love Schitt's Creek. I love all the characters. David is my favorite. So this one was so hard. Like if the bracket was different, my like Schitt's Creek would have made it way farther. But New Girl, I can't go against.
I really set us up when I made this.
I was like so mad.
I know. I shouldn't have done this. And I love both these shows. Like we talk about them both. But yeah. I feel like if you took my sense of humor and just put it in a box, like it is Schitt's Creek. Like it's so dry that I just love it. And I had to go with it. Sorry.
Literally I feel like the 2 sitcoms we talked about the most are Friends and New Girl. And you went against both of them.
It's true. I love them both though, but I don't know.
It's like you prefaced in the last episode.
Tons of hot takes, but I really do love New Girl. Like I feel bad doing this.
You should. Zoe Deschanel is pissed. Watched that show so much, and I laugh every single time. yesterday when I was at my parents and I was hanging out with my siblings and we were watching New Girl again because it's like it's a shared show between us that we all love, which can be hard to find, but we all have watched it multiple times. And my brother made a great point. He's like, this is the only show that like I've seen multiple times that I still laugh out loud every time. And it's so true. I laugh every single episode. I think the casting is elite in this show. It's done so well. The characters are done so well. Every single character is like pretty much my favorite character. I love them all. I also love it because I feel like it's underrated in some ways because people forget about it. And I think there's like some weird thing that people don't like Zooey Deschanel for some reason. I have no idea why. And that's why they're like turn away from New Girl. But this show, if you haven't watched it, you have to watch it.
I was literally just going to say this is one of the most underrated shows of all time.
Yes. For sure.
And I'm underrating it right now.
Yeah, you are. But it's okay because I also feel like Schitt's Creek took a long time for it to hit its popularity and like peak. So kind of like two underrated shows. So my sister told me this yesterday. I guess there is a podcast with Zooey Deschanel, the actor who plays Winston, and then the actress who plays Cece. And they like talk through the pilot. I didn't know this, but the pilot episode was up for an award, but it was the same year as Modern Family. So Modern Family won. So that's why I think New Girl's underrated because Modern Family just like took the world by storm. And I'm sure there were a few other sitcoms too at the time, but New Girl's an elite show. I could do a whole podcast on New Girl and how it's the best show ever.
I knew I was going to
Yeah,
it's gonna ruffle some feathers
whenever
here.
You said like this bracket or this section, like I'm really gonna upset you. I'm like, oh, she won against New Girl.
You know me so well.
It's honestly acceptable because at least it wasn't like New Girl versus 2.5 Men and you pick 2.5 Men. But it's against Schitt's Creek, which honestly, like I said, if this bracket was different, would have probably been in my like top 4.
Schitt's Creek. For my family, like, we all watched this like when it came out too, like before it got the cult following it does. Yep. We watched it from the beginning basically and fell in love with it. I can kind of relate to the premise of living in a small town and how they like stand out and stuff. Not that the town I grew up in was like that or anything like that, but like it's just so interesting to see these really bougie people living in basic filth and how they react to it.
Honestly, I think I need to watch that show again. I've watched it multiple times too, but I think it's due up on the docket for another run through.
It's probably one I could probably watch over and over and over and not stop laughing at. And David's just an incredible character.
David, oh my God. And I also love like just that Dan Levy and I don't know what his dad's name. Eugene. They worked on the whole show together and even his sister is on. Like it's just cute that it's a family affair. The actress who played Alexis, it was her big break, like a great opportunity for her. Like she really wasn't getting as many gigs as she wanted to. The actress who plays Moira, amazing, like so amazing, but she really hasn't done anything in a long time.
Yeah,
like,
Home Alone mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's literally it.
Because I watched the Netflix like special on the Schitt's Creek show and talking about like the ins and outs and some of the behind the scenes. And it was just so fascinating to see how it all came together. It's just so cool to have a show that's a Canadian show as well. And it blew up so much in the US and it was on like Pop, like a random station. They talk a lot about the costume design in Schitt's Creek and just the fashion for all of the characters, not just like Moira, because obviously she pulls together looks, but like how that was like a priority, which I feel like you don't really see that in shows as much. But yeah, and the acting is just phenomenal in this show too.
The side characters are so good. I'm like Stevie to Roland, Twyla, they're all incredible, where you don't get that in many shows.
No, and I think that there's so many iconic lines and moments in Schitt's Creek as well.
What a matchup. My bad.
Yeah, it was rough, but again, New Girl is my heart and soul.
The next matchup was How I Met Your Mother in the middle. This wasn't very hard for me. I picked the middle.
Okay, same. It's so easy. I hate How I Met Your Mother. We just talked about some underrated sitcoms. I think How I Met Your Mother is one of the most overrated sitcoms. So I went with the middle. Again, definitely underrated because I feel like it was squished between like Modern Family, maybe the Goldberg. I don't even know. But yeah, the middle, that show is hilarious. Like it is really underrated. And it's crazy because the mom in the middle is the same mom on Everybody Loves Raymond, but she's so much better on the middle.
Not even close. This was one of the shows that my family watched like religiously, was the middle. Mom would call me Axel all the time because I just resembled him at that time, like someone who's always a menace in school, like a little shit to the parents, very relatable. And then my sister was a lot like Sue, not as nerdy, but like trying to get my attention and get me to basically like her and stuff too.
A younger sibling.
Yeah, she was the quintessential younger sibling. Sorry, Kate, if you're listening, you better be, but
you better be supporting me.
Better be supporting me right now. Very relatable show in terms of our family for sure.
This show is so funny. I also love, which is another show we didn't put on this bracket because Kelsey hasn't seen it, but Scrubs. The janitor in Scrubs, who's like a pretty prevalent character throughout, is the dad in the middle. He isn't a main character in Scrubs, so it was cool to see him as a main character in the middle and just like actually see like the acting and all that. But yeah, I think this is definitely an underrated show, sitcom. And I'm about to go into my How I Met Your Mother slander. I watched How I Met Your Mother regularly for a while there, and then I think I went off to college and I just didn't watch TV as much, so I stopped watching. But I would like get snippets from social media or whatever every now and then. I have never hated a main character more than I hate Ted Mosby. He gives off Ross energy. Like he is a victim of the whole show. Like, oh, you can't find a woman. Like, oh my God, it's just annoying. And it's hard when like you can't get past the main character. I can't deal with him. I really can't. Barney was my favorite character in the show, Neil Patrick Harris. And the way they ended this show is annoying to me because the whole time you're like, oh, Robin and Ted end up together. Like that's who it is, blah, blah, blah. Then they're like Aunt Robin. So you're like, oh, this is weird. I guess they don't end up together because the kids are calling her aunt. Then the actual mother passes away from cancer, which is traumatic. And I get what they were trying to do because like shit like that happens, like life happens. But for him to then end up with Robin and she leaves Barney, like Barney and her get a divorce, I'm out. I'm immediately out. That has to be one of the worst endings to a show ever.
I agree with everything you're saying. Barney is the best character. I feel like they tried to be really edgy at the end and make this big splash instead of just ending it the way they had set the show up to end the entire time. It was gross. I also will go on the record. I hate Ross from Friends. I hate Lily from How I Met Your Mother. They're pretty much dead even. I think she's just like low key, high key, really selfish and annoying and irresponsible.
She's definitely annoying in the show.
She's very irresponsible. And then they had the alternative ending, and I'm like,
yeah, the ending everyone wanted.
If you're gonna do this, then just do it.
It made absolutely no sense. And if I like regularly watched it, I would have been pissed. Like I would have been so mad if I watched this whole show for that to be the ending, because like from the beginning, they said it. I was like, oh, Robin and Ted, that's who it is. And no, Robin's also annoying too. Honestly, most of the characters in the show besides Barney are annoying. And the only reason Barney is funny because, again, he plays that typical character like a Joey, like the kind of slapstick, like silly, goofy comedy. Just when like he's starting to have like character development, like falls in love with Robin and they get married, all this stuff, then they get divorced. Like you just brought back to who he was at the start of the show. It makes no sense. I also feel like Ted had so many great women along the way too.
I agree. It was very strange. Yeah, I feel like they passed Robin around like a hot dog almost. Like, here, go to this, stop. Like,
yeah,
she's a person.
Yeah,
let's relax.
Women, like, please. I didn't like it. And especially now, like reflecting on it as an older woman too, I'm just like, what? Like, no, I can't believe they did the spin-off of How I Met Your Father And it's unfortunate that Hilary Duff is the lead. I was so disappointed in her.
I absolutely refuse to watch that.
Same. Like, even I feel like it's been getting like mild comments like, oh, it's actually really good. And I'm like, no.
The audacity for those people to even show themselves out in the world again after the worst sitcom ending of all time.
I know. And I also think like they could have just done it better, because there were like some cool, like with the clues and stuff like that, but that didn't really start to pick up until the end too. They needed like 2 seasons.
The problem is they introduced the mother and you don't even get time to get to know her, and then she's dead. And you're like, the whole show is about her. Yeah. It's supposed to be, and now she's dead, like within 3 minutes. And it was traumatic to go through it.
Yeah, it really was. So this was obviously an easy one, not only because The Middle is an underrated, amazing sitcom, but because also How I Met Your Mother is absolute trash.
Correct. Sorry to How I Met Your Mother fans, but
I'm not.
There probably are none left at this point. So next matchup was Modern Family versus The League. I really had a hard time with this one.
This one was pretty easy for me, only because I definitely fell off the Modern Family wagon again, because when I started college, like, we never watched TV. I loved Modern Family starting out, but The League is an elite show. So that's who I went with.
Janelle and I recently watched Modern Family from start to finish. So I picked Modern Family, but I agree. The League is an elite show and no one knows about it, like, at all. I watched this sophomore year of college, like, by myself. Basically, because it was just like random and it came on. If you haven't watched it, it's basically about these 4 dudes. Was it 3 dudes or 4 dudes? I don't know, some dudes.
4 or 5, because they even have, there's like, it's just a group of men
and 1 woman.
Yeah.
Group of dudes, 1 woman. They basically are in this fantasy football league, and this whole show is basically around the ridiculous things they do to win their fantasy football league and just their life that goes on alongside of it as well. And it's hilarious and you should watch it.
And honestly, like, even if you're not a sports fan or never played fantasy football, like, this show is so good. Like, it's so funny. And you don't need to be like into sports or fantasy football. Like, yeah, there's definitely moments, obviously they talk about football a lot, but it's not the whole backbone of the show, I would say. It's obviously a part of it. I also thought the show was so cool because it like brought on major athletes and football players too. Like, I just don't think people talked about this show enough. And I feel like it deserved so much more like coverage than it got.
There weren't very many seasons of it at all.
Yeah, I think so. I wish this went a lot longer. I think there's like 5 seasons.
It was 5 too short, honestly.
7.
I watched 7 seasons of this in like maybe a month. Like, no lie. 7? Really?
Another show that I've watched multiple times. But yeah, 7, because, and it could have gone on longer. I wanted more like seasons. Like, this show was so good, but again, I just don't think it was talked about. Obviously, I think the show is relatable to an extent because obviously, like, we're not doing crazy things for fantasy football. But if you never played fantasy football before, and I'm sure we'll do plenty of episodes on it when it's that time, it drives you crazy, like drives you up a wall. The amount of like time and thoughts, I guess, that I have around fantasy football, it's a lot. And I'm in a fantasy football league with my family, which is the first one I ever joined, and we're going on like 11 years now. So this show is just so relatable of like some of the nuances and chaos that happen in a fantasy football league. It's just so funny. And again, one of my favorite people, Nick Kroll, is in it, who is hilarious. The actor who plays Rafi too, he's in a ton of stuff. Like, he's in Big Mouths with Nick Kroll. He's in Parks and Rec. Like, he's in so many different shows with, I feel like he's just an underrated actor and he's hilarious every single time. Like, oh, this show is so good.
Malcolm in the Middle is chaotic energy for children's chaotic energy. Yep. This is adult chaotic energy, like to a T. Like, it's so messy.
Literally, it's very intense, and there are like cringe moments where I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's so good. I think, again, relatable. The writing is really good. The comedic timing, just the concept. Why isn't there a show about fantasy football? Like, that would be hilarious. It's really good. I also think for us too, and I don't want to speak for you, but it was just relatable to the one woman in the fantasy football league. I related to the wife so much because being in the sports industry in general, but also being a sports fan, men are always shocked by like how much women know about sports. I remember, I think I was working a Lightning game and I got to talking to like a guest, and I was like, yeah, I'm a Giants fan. And they're like, oh, name 5 players on the team. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, what do you mean? I wouldn't ask you to name 5 players. I did it obviously because I'm a boss, but the fact that the one woman in the fantasy football league is just so amazing and like so much smarter than the men too was just another relatable component of the show.
Yeah, I think that's a true fact. I think that insecure men get insecure by the fact that a woman might know more about sports than them. So they have to almost prove that they know. And like, it's just a hobby. It's nothing more than something somebody likes and they know stuff about. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, relax. They're not going to take your balls just because a woman knows more Giants players than you. Like, calm down.
I think that like men own sport, like that category for so long, or I mean, they own a lot of things for so long, but in the past like decade or so that like women are fans or like play fantasy football or whatever, they're like, meh, like freaked out by it, or like it's like the hot thing to like be a woman who likes sports. And it's like, what that has nothing to do with like my character. Like you said, it's just like a hobby and something I'm passionate about and enjoy. Like, it just makes no sense. Obviously we're going on a tangent, but The League, amazing show, watch it. But also Modern Family, I understand why you picked it.
Modern Family is just one of those shows that kind of changed sitcoms a little bit too. They really tackled being gay and being a gay parent before that stuff was really prevalent. Like, before gay marriage was legal, and obviously it's very hard to adopt children with the 2 same-sex parents as well. So they did a really good job of balancing that, and also how the rest of the family like dealt with it and became more supportive as the seasons go on too. But there's just so many different unique characters that all have their own path. It's just probably one of my favorite shows that I've ever watched. So
I think I need to watch it again from like start to finish. But I remember I always really enjoyed the show, and Cameron is one of my favorite characters like of all time. I think he's just fantastic on the show. I also love Phil Dunphy.
I think every character is so good. I don't think I would say, oh, I hate that character.
Another reason I need to watch the show is because I never really got to experience Lily as like an adult, or I think she was still just a kid when I stopped watching the show.
The older she gets, the less she's in it, because her parents want her to have like a normal childhood. So she's not as involved the older she gets as she was when she was a baby. When she's in there, she really packs a punch. Like, she hits people.
You know that the kid who plays, what is Phil's son's name?
Luke
is actually like a genius in real life.
I did not know that.
A story came out like a while ago, but he's like a certified genius. Like, he has a ridiculous IQ, and he plays like the dumb boy on the show.
I think Luke is my favorite character. Luke or Jay.
Yeah. It's sometimes hard to make a person laugh out loud, if that makes sense. You're so like locked into the show. And Modern Family is one of those shows when I watched it where I laughed out loud. I remember there was an episode, I don't even know if it was like an earthquake or something, but it was like Phil and Luke. And like Luke kept hitting his head, or hit his head on the bookshelf, or maybe it was Phil. I don't remember. But I remember like we rewind it multiple times and we're just like cracking up laughing, because just the way like they did it and interacted. Oh my goodness. It was so funny. Also when Cam and what's his husband's name? Mitch announced, like, this is early on when they announced like that they adopted Lily.
Oh yeah, it's the pilot.
And Cam plays the song from The Lion King. Yeah. Oh my god. That was so there's a lot of really good episodes. But yeah, I think that's one of those shows where I laughed out loud. Maybe that is what I'll start rewatching after I go through my 40th time of New Girl.
You should. I think the cast just works really well together and they all liked each other a lot. I watched their special too that they did after they wrapped filming, and they were really close too. I think it shows.
Yeah, I feel like they were definitely an actual family. And I think, like you said, it talks about like a lot of topics that we probably didn't see a gay couple like being together and then adopting, but also like a blended family with like Jay and what's Sophia?
Gloria.
Yeah, Gloria, and just like the different cultures of and nuances of like her being a Hispanic woman and like her culture, and then Jay just being a white man and not really understanding like some of the components of that. So I like how it shows like family, but in 3 different ways. These dogs are really trying to mess up them.
They are just having the time of their lives during this podcast. I think Jay's character development is probably one of the biggest arcs you probably see in a sitcom ever, honestly. Like he really is like starts out as this homophobic, probably a little bit racist dude, and then ends very much not those things, which not a lot of people do when they start off that way.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of growth, which we love to see.
But also Seinfeld. But anyway.
Yeah, it's time about 0 growth whatsoever.
Also no growth shows. Elite. The last matchup in the modern bracket is the modern region is a big one. It's The Office versus Parks and Rec.
You go first.
I know. I love them both. I picked The Office.
No.
Absolutely. I know. I know.
One of my favorite shows, comfort show, is Parks and Rec. Maybe we should rank our top in the next episode or something, but I love Parks and Rec. I watched The Office like everyone else, like pretty regularly when it was on. I remember watching it and like waiting for the episodes. But again, I think it was just one of those shows I stopped watching, and I have seen it like a couple of times through and like catch an episode every here and there. I understand why people think it's so funny, but Parks and Rec is better.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that assessment. I don't not like Parks and Rec. I really do like it. I just love The Office, and I love that they take this very boring 9-to-5 paper sales work culture and just made a whole quote unquote documentary about it, and it really highlights all the different characters, and I just love it. It's just my type of, again, it's dry humor, so I'm all in on it.
I just love Parks and Rec. I really appreciate a good cast. I'm not saying that the Office cast isn't good, because it is, but the casting of Parks and Rec and their characters, like, you need every single one of them. Like, they are irreplaceable. It's a different concept, which again, similar to The Office. That's why I think they get compared a lot, of just working in like the parks department for the government, like Parks and Rec department, like, I don't know, and covering that. I love every character in the show too. I think that there's this is another show that I laugh out loud still, and I've seen it probably, like, if I've seen New Girl like 40 times, I've probably seen Parks and Rec maybe like 25. Like, I love this show so much, and I think that like Amy Poehler is so good in it, like as Leslie Jones, and I feel like a character like that could be really annoying, but she plays it so well. I love every single character. Like, there's not a character I don't love. Ron Swanson, obviously. Andy, April, Donna, like all of them. Even Jerry / Gary. Like, you need him. I also love Rob Lowe in this show. I love Ben. I love Rashida Jones. I just think this show is so funny. And I think that they bring in a lot of like outside characters too that are either in for like a few episodes or just an episode that are hysterical. Like when Andy Samberg is on, that's one of my favorite episodes. Like I was cracking up. Again, shout out to Nick Kroll, who I talk about all the time apparently, but he's in it and he plays that a douchey radio host. Like, oh my God. And one of my favorite episodes of a sitcom ever is with the snake juice, and when they go to the club and they all just get absolutely wasted. Oh my God, I like cry from watching that episode. So I think Parks and Rec is very underrated. I love that show so much, and it's crazy because I don't think I watched it when it was on the air. Like it was a show that I watched afterwards. But yeah, this one, it was pretty easy for me, but I can appreciate The Office as well.
Yeah, I think I watched Parks and Rec right after I finished The Office for the first time. I went straight into Parks and Rec. I think that Ron Swanson is one of my favorite characters. Just, you know, a guy who hates government, working in government, can appreciate it. I also hate the government, so it's relatable. But it's really cool to see Chris Pratt as well as Andy,
as Star-Lord,
and not as Star-Lord or the the dude from the Jurassic Park movies either, or the Jurassic World movies. So yeah, it's an unbelievable casting. But I'm just an office lover. What it comes down to.
Girly.
just love the 9 to 5.
I will say though, like again, the casting is so good, and Steve Carell is phenomenal in that show. That show also made me cry with the finale too. Like when Michael shows up for Dwight's wedding, I was like, I'm not well. So yeah, it's a good show. I love Parks and Rec so much, and I think there's so many iconic moments in both shows, but there's like moments that I like point out in Parks and Rec or repeat like over again that are just hysterical.
This just comes down to love. That's all it is. This region is not similar at all. Again,
no, we have one the same.
1 of 4 in this. So the first matchup is for me was Schitt's Creek versus The Middle, whereas yours was New Girl versus The Middle. I moved Schitt's Creek on.
I also didn't move The Middle on because, like I said, I live and breathe for New Girl, so that is what moved on. In the grand scheme of things, like New Girl and Schitt's Creek are better than The Middle.
Yeah, so we agree on that fact at the very least.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And then I had Modern Family versus The Office, and you had The League versus Parks and Rec. I really did talk up Modern Family a lot, but I'm see ya, like I moved The Office on.
Bye.
But have a good day. I'm gone.
Yeah, The League versus Parks and Rec. I also talked up The League a lot because it is a really good show, but I had to move Parks and Rec. I love that show. And like I said, it's one of I have 3 comfort shows, which if you haven't figured out by these 2 episodes, then you're not listening carefully. But I'll talk about them when we get to our final. So I had to move Parks and Rec on.
All of these shows in this region were good, except for How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah,
so
true.
This was hard. And then my Elite 8 matchup here was Schitt's Creek versus The Office. Big battle. But I moved Schitt's Creek to the final 4.
Good. That was a good choice.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mine was New Girl versus Parks and Rec, and no surprise, moved New Girl on, which was really hard for me because I love both of these shows.
This was a very hard region.
Yeah, I think the right side of the bracket was harder because like nostalgia and modern, like there were so many shows that we grew up with and watched regularly. Whereas like the cartoon and parents, like a lot of the parents ones, like our parents watched obviously. And then the cartoon, I'm just not like a big cartoon sitcom girly. So
we watched a lot of freaking shows as kids, though, is what I realized.
The fact that we could even put like 32 shows on here that we've both watched is like, we watch so much TV.
And then you think about the non-sitcoms and like reality shows and then like other kids shows we watch that aren't sitcoms too. Like,
yeah,
it could be gross if you calculate every show you've watched.
Oh, for sure. From like starting out, like watching Barney to like now watching like Netflix and all this streaming services, it's a lot. I feel like we actually, I don't know, because I feel like TV is still so prevalent, but I feel like we grew up in such an era where like all you did was watch TV. But I will say too, like we did a lot of like, we played sports, we played outside, like we did a lot as kids.
The hours were longer back then.
It had to happen. Like it had to happen.
So our final fours are completely different. Mine is Archer, Seinfeld, Saved by the Bell, and Schitt's Creek.
And then mine is Bob's Burgers, Friends, Boy Meets World, and New Girl.
So going back to the left side of the bracket, my matchup ended up being Archer versus Seinfeld in the final four. My love for Archer does end here, which I'm sure you're excited about since they were a first round exit for you. I'm bringing Seinfeld to the championship.
I guess I respect that. I don't really like either of those shows, but whatever. So mine is Bob's Burgers versus Friends. And really no surprise whatsoever, I brought Friends to the final. But I think that if I watch Bob's Burgers a few more times through, it would probably beat Friends out.
No way you just said that after chastising me over Seinfeld.
Seinfeld is no, I'm kidding. I don't know because like I watch Friends because it's just so like a part of my routine. Like it's just like a part of who I am at this point. And I'm just one of those girls that goes back to the same shows a lot. But Bob's Burgers is really good. Like it's just such a fun, like lighthearted show. So I don't know, but I just said like maybe that could be a thing. I'm not saying it is a thing. I'll test out my hypothesis and watch Bob's Burgers a few more times. But yeah, I had to move Friends over because it's Friends.
My other half of the bracket matchup was Saved by the Bell versus Schitt's Creek. I brought Schitt's Creek.
Okay, good.
I know you would have.
If you put that against Saved by the Bell and pick Saved by the Bell, no.
It wasn't close though.
I would also like to preface this though, because like the older shows are more than likely just not going to hold up against the newer ones, you know, because like we talked about, it's just not the same when you go back and watch them.
That's true. I agree.
So with that being said, Boy Meets World versus New Girl, again, literally no surprise at all. I brought New Girl to the final because that is my show. Championship
battle between Seinfeld and Schitt's Creek. I literally looked at this for a long time. I really thought about it. I really dug deep. I went to confession. I prayed about it. I called everyone I knew, asked their opinions. I'm just kidding.
Wait, did you fill this out all at once or did you like wait a little bit to pick your final winner?
No, I did it all at once.
Okay, just curious.
This was the hardest decision that I've ever made in my entire life. Like, no joke. I really hope
you make the right one.
I picked Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
You would have killed me. I think you'd have killed me.
Yeah, good job. What in the long run made you pick them over Seinfeld?
Like I said, like I don't think there's a show that relates to the style of humor that I like more than Schitt's Creek. That's it.
Period. My championship was really easy because I literally put my winner first. But Friends versus New Girl, which again are two of my comfort shows, but I picked New Girl. I literally put New Girl in that like final spot and circled it before I filled out the rest of the bracket because I knew that was my favorite show. If Parks and Rec was on the other side of the bracket, it would have been Parks and Rec versus New Girl because I like those two shows the best. Then Friends is third. But anyways, like I said, my comfort shows, Friends, New Girl, Parks and Rec. And New Girl just wins out because I still laugh every single episode. I love every single character. Nick and Schmidt give me life. And I just love that show so much. But yeah, there definitely were, I feel like some shows we left out. But at the end of the day, I think that some of the best ones were in our final.
Yeah, I think I would have had Ted Lasso in my final four. This is such recency bias. You
really are.
I really get held down by the stuff I'm like doing in that current moment, but I really just love it so much.
I know.
So.
I need to, you can have a free trial of Apple TV, right?
I think so.
Because maybe one when I don't have anything to do and I can just knock out the whole show in like a week.
Oh yeah, it's easy. They only have 2 seasons right now.
Oh,
It's new, so.
yeah. For some reason, I thought they had like 4 seasons or something. 2. That's
No, I think they're filming season 3. I don't know. They just won some awards like the other night. So
yeah, I saw that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's our sitcom bracket.
Schitt's Creek and New Girl, which I mean that makes sense knowing both of us.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
Yeah, I definitely think mine was pretty predictable. I feel like Schitt's Creek, I was a little shocked. I don't know who I would have had you winning, but I don't think I had like Schitt's Creek up there.
But you don't know.
Good to know.
But you have no idea what I would have picked.
No, I mean, you did, like we talked about in the first episode, had some hot takes there with like 2.5 Men. Like I was getting a little nervous. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, 2.5 Men wins, actually.
You are definitely more like are just unpredictable. So I was like, oh God, what is going to come out of this? But Schitt's Creek, great choice. I endorse that pick. But no, I feel like this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys want to let us know who made your final 4 and who your winner is, feel free to send us a little message.
Unless it's like 2.5 Men, How I Met Your Mother, King of the Hill. I don't want to hear it. Or actually like make your case for your show because I don't get it.
If you slide into our DMs with Everybody Loves Raymond, though, just walk yourself out because you're getting blocked.
I would need like a thesis on why Everybody Loves Raymond is the best sitcom because I don't get it.
I'm not reading a single paragraph about that show. I already had to watch it.
You have terrible taste. Here's some better options.
Yeah, we actually have 31 better options right on this bracket for you.
Yeah, I definitely would put like that. I know you don't agree with this, but like Family Guy, South Park at the bottom, 2.5 Men. How I Met Your Mother definitely would be in the bottom.
Oh, How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, definitely a bottom feeder.
Yeah, no, like my top 4, like in a ideal world, or like I said, top 3: Friends, New Girl, Parks and Rec. I really do love Boy Meets World, That 70s Show, Malcolm in the Middle, Bob's Burgers, obviously.
This was tough. Again, the hardest thing I ever had to do.
The decision between Seinfeld and Schitt's Creek. Who would have thought?
So dramatic.
Yeah, just a little.
That's us though. Dramatic as per usual.
Dramatic is just a part of our everyday lives. We like to
pretty
bring
much
drama, aka why we have a podcast talking about sports drama.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Next week, we're bringing you another interview with a fan, so you don't want to miss that.
Check out our link tree as always, which you can find in the description of this episode. This is our one-stop shop for you to find all of our social media accounts and also sign up to share your fandom story with us. And like Kelsey said, react to our brackets, send in your brackets, your top, your final 4, all that good stuff. We want to know your thoughts and opinions too.
And so you don't miss any of our upcoming podcasts, subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and share with a friend or leave us a review. Every little bit helps.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next Wednesday.